For the last couple of years, I've been using footage from my Rexing and Veckel 1080p dash cams for my bad driver videos, and I've been happy with the quality of the video and the performance of these cameras, until now. This is the Orbit 960, sent to me by my Geko Gear. We're going to test and evaluate it and see, is it worth upgrading your dashcam for one of these? Hi, this is the my Geko Gear Orbit 960 4K dashcam, which we'll be reviewing today. And let's take a look at what you get in the box and what the box looks like itself. Nicely designed cardboard box here with some key features of the product. It is a 4K Ultra HD camera with a Sony Starvis sensor, which is optimized, really good for low light and night mode. It has a 140 degree wide angle lens, and it has a G sensor, which detects impact or rapid deceleration and saves the footage in case you get into some sort of accident. But here's something that's unusual. It supports an SD card of up to 512 gigabytes, which is huge. Most of the cameras that I've reviewed or tested out or owned myself max out at about 64, and most of them actually maxed out at 32 gigabytes. So the fact that it stores up to 512, well, that's a definite benefit, especially, let's say, if you're a commercial driver and want to keep as much of the footage as possible before it gets written over, or if for whatever reason you don't want it to be written over. The fact that it can store up to 512 gigabytes at a time is a very key benefit. And it also has motion detection, it has GPS logging, and it's Wi-Fi compatible with your phone. And some other features which we're going to have to look into, because I don't know how these would work. It has a lane departure warning and a front collision warning and a driver fatigue warning. So I'm not sure how this dash cam accomplishes that, but I guess we'll find out. All right, so let's see what's inside here. And, well, this is the unit itself. It's smaller than a typical phone, like a smaller camera. And it has a little protective cover that you have to take off. So just be sure you take that off, otherwise your footage is going to be really blurry. But this is a little plastic protective cover for the lens. And we have the unit itself. Let's see what else we have underneath here. We have a micro USB connection. We have a 3M adhesive and a suction cup for your window, and we have a lighter adapter, single. And it comes with a 16 gigabyte micro SD card, which is nice, and the instruction manual, which we will take a look at in depth. But let me just see what languages it comes in. English and Francais. Okay, so we've got two languages here. All right, so let's mount this sucker up and see how it works. This is a quick demo on how to install a dash cam, and this is pretty standard. So most dash cams come with is a suction or a adhesive 3M mount to mount onto your windshield or onto your dash. This one comes with two. It comes with both, but oddly enough, the suction mount is also kind of a little tacky and adhesive. This is something I've never seen before in a suction cup, but there's always a first time. There's a little slot that you attach the mount to your camera onto, and let me just get this in there. It just slides in, there we go. And then you attach this to your windshield. Now, ideally, you want to find a place in your windshield that does not obstruct your view as you're driving, because that would be bad. So the best place to put it is actually right behind your rear view mirror, because it's hidden behind the mirror, and it's not really obstructing your view, because your mirror is, in a sense, covering it. Or as high as possible, but somewhere ideally that has a good view of what you're seeing as you're driving. So I'm going to mount it just in front and just above, and you don't want it in a place that would make it difficult to adjust your mirror. And then I'm going to turn a little suction dial here to mount it. There we go, and it clicks in. And then you want to put your power cable, in this case this is a micro USB cable. You want to attach that to your lighter or your USB power port, and then you want to, ideally you want to run it underneath your upholstery of your vehicle, so it's out of the way. But for now, we're just going to wrap it in because we're just testing this out. But as you can see here, I've actually wrapped the power cord for my main camera, which is off screen here, but let me just turn it over here. So this is my main camera, or my current camera, and this is the my Geko camera. All right, and we'll just turn it on. Oh, need the keys for that. There we go. Bob's your uncle. It's working. All right. All right. So this is the camera and how we set it up. Fairly high on the windscreen here, so it's out of the way and not obstructing my field of view. This is what I would be seeing as I'm driving, so it's not in that field of view at all. Now, looking up at the LCD screen and looking at it in detail, let me see if I can adjust the exposure on this a little bit. But I don't know if you can tell here, but this LCD image is a little bit washed out. I wish there was a way to adjust how it's playing, but there isn't. And the other thing I noticed about the LCD screen is that the pixels are a little chunky. It's reminiscent of an older phone or an older digital camera. It's not super crisp. It's okay, but could be better. But then again, it's not like you're going to be watching HD movies on here. It's just to show you what the camera is seeing, and also to tell you what kind of settings it's on and are activated at the moment, and also to let you manipulate the settings. And this is the menu system. There's a good number of buttons on the device itself, so it's fairly intuitive how to cycle through the various settings in the menu, and you can just press the OK button on here to select something. You can change a setting up and down, or you can just go back if you change your mind about something. And there are some quick access buttons here on the outside of the unit, so that you can say if you want to take a quick photo, you can press that button there, just press it twice and it takes a photo. Or there is an emergency record button down here, just press that twice and it starts to take a recording and saves it. So let's say if you're driving around and you see somebody cutting you off or driving erratically and you want to record that person, you just press this twice and it makes this recording. Speaking of recording people driving, let's do that.
Turn right on Goff Street.
So right off the bat, we have a bad driver. A blinking yellow light means proceed with caution, slow down, not stop and wait for another colored light. This person doesn't seem to know that. And don't worry, this is a one-way street. This is why it's okay for me to be on the left side of the road, at least on this particular street. We can see here that the MyGecko offers a lot of information. If you choose to have it time-stamped on your footage, it will display not only the time and date of the footage, but also GPS. Whoa, that guy's going fast. Speaking of speed, because it has GPS, it can not only show you the GPS coordinates, and using the GPS signal, it can show the estimated speed that you're traveling. Now, of course, this has its pluses and minuses. It's a double-edged sword. If you were showing accident footage and it just so happens to show that you're exceeding the speed limit, that would not be very good for your case. But if you have a family car and you would like to just check up on your child who is borrowing your car, it could be useful to know how fast they were driving. Again, that's totally up to you. You have that option in the settings to turn any of these displays on or off. Now, on that train of thought, this is why it's nice that this camera can use up to a 512 gigabyte SD card. Now, my initial thought on that was, why would you need that much storage? But, because that's almost like a week's worth of driving footage. And this is not a commercial camera. I mean, you can't lock out the user from removing the SD card or getting into the settings to reformat or what have you. But as a parent, you could watch how your kids drive, as a responsible parent, see how well they drive for up to a week. And, I'm not advocating that you spy on your kids, but, it's nice to have options. Switching gears here for a moment, I wanted to show you an example of the audio that it can pick up. So you could hear the siren clearly, and audio is something that you can choose to turn on or to have off and not record in the settings. Obviously, it is a piece of evidence. It could potentially be a piece of evidence. Or you could choose to leave it off for privacy concerns because you don't want your personal conversations to be overheard and recorded. It's up to you. Now, as we make this turn at City Hall, I just like to point out the quality of the footage that we're seeing here. It's very clear and sharp. Now, part of that is because it's 4K, double the resolution of a 1080p camera. But you could clearly make out all the vehicles around you, not just the color, make, and model, but you can clearly read the license plates, and that's really good. The only criticism I have is that we're picking up a lot of glare off of the dashboard. You can see the dashboard reflected onto the windscreen and into the camera. Now, my old Venkel camera, even though it was 1080p, had a removable circular polarizing filter on the front of it, and that really reduced the glare that the camera was getting. You're losing a little bit, maybe a half a stop of light coming through, which is a technical term, but that just means because you had that filter in front of there, the images weren't as bright. And of course, in night mode, that means that night images were just a tad bit darker. But as you can see when we get into the sunlight, the reflections can be distracting, and you can lose detail from them as much or more than just having the filter in front of there. So I think it's a missed opportunity for the engineers at MyGecko to not include a circular polarizing filter in front of the lens, or more conveniently, a removable circular polarizing filter. The one that I had on my previous camera was magnetically attached. So if you chose not to have a circular polarizing filter, you didn't have to. You could just keep it off. But that's just something for you to think about, you engineers over at MyGecko. Get a polarizing filter on this thing, and you'd have a home run. Now I'm jumping ahead here to freeway, or if you're anywhere else in the country other than California, highway driving, to show you just how smooth the footage is at 30 frames per second. At the resolution we have at 4K, it's got a fixed frame rate of 30 frames per second. You can get 60 frames per second, but you have to reduce, in the settings, you have to reduce the resolution down to 1080p. But even at 30 frames per second, we're getting very smooth, very clear footage, as we'll see in a moment here when we do a still frame. Now, as a general rule, the higher the frame rate, the clearer, the less blurry each individual frame is going to be. But of course, you're going to have a larger file size. Now, I'm pausing it here and just taking one still frame from the video we're watching so you can see just how clear a single frame is at 30 frames per second with the Orbit 960. Now, contrast that with the image on the right, which was taken at the exact same time, but with my older Venkel camera at 60 frames per second, but 1080p. I'm going to zoom in 250% on this black Camry that's merging into our lane, by the way, without signaling. You can clearly see the differences in the level of detail and clarity that you're getting with this 4K camera. Alright, so let's take a look at what you can see at night. The Orbit 960 has a Sony Starvis sensor, which means that it can capture night and low light footage very well. Now, this is the same sensor that's used in higher-end security cameras and offers really good renderings in low light or in near infrared. The camera does a pretty good job of changing exposures for different lighting conditions as you go from light to dark, from lit areas to unlit areas. But one thing that the camera, I've not been able to find a dash cam that could adequately filter out the glare so that you could read a license plate of a car that was coming towards you, or even a parked car, for example, just because of the reflective material that they put on license plates to be able to see them from a distance. It actually is detrimental to reading them clearly, which is kind of ironic. Okay, so I think overall we've got a good sense of the capabilities of this camera, both in day and night mode. There are a couple of features mentioned in the user manual and on the website such as a lane departure warning and a distance warning indicator, but honestly, I couldn't figure out how they would work. That would mean that you'd have to be watching the dash cam display while you're driving, which is not safe. And some of the other features, like a fatigue warning, that really is just a timer that you set for like 2-3 hours from now, and every 2 or 3 hours it reminds you to get some rest. Really, that's not a feature, that's more of a gimmick. Now, despite those gimmicks, this is still a great dash cam. I would get it just for the quality of the footage that it takes. And it's certainly going to be my personal dash cam for the foreseeable future. If you're interested in picking up one of these, I've included a link in the video description so you can pick it up on Amazon. It's currently retailing for about $160, $170, and of course that price is probably going to go up, just like everything else in 2021. And if you found this video to be helpful, like, subscribe, and share. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you aren't subscribed already, and share this with your friends and family who are into gadgets or who could really use a dash cam, because in this day and age, it's sad, but if you don't get it on film, it's like it didn't happen. Anyway, thanks for watching. You be safe out there. Moondog, out. Hey, if you like this video, please share it on social media. Facebook, forums, MeWe, whatever platform you're on. And if you want to see more videos, check out moondogindustries.com.